Ukrainians' new F-16 squadron with American pilots begins protecting skies. Drones hit Ilsky refinery in Russia. Occupied Sevastopol reports one of longest attacks. And how Ukrainian special forces wipe out Iskander missile complex at Russian base. The latest news next. Ukraine has formed an F-16 squadron consisting of Ukrainian, American and Dutch pilots to help defend the skies against Russian missiles and drones, according to Intelligence Online. New squadron. The squadron was created in recent weeks under strict secrecy to operate the new F-16s. This unit plays a central role in protecting the airspace over the Kyiv region, which faces constant Russian attacks. The squadron includes American pilots with extensive combat experience in Afghanistan. One recently participated in operations in the Middle East before joining Ukraine's defense. Dutch pilots trained in elite European air combat schools, specializing in modern interception tactics and high-tech aerial warfare. Intelligence Online notes that Western veterans signed temporary 6-month contracts with possible extensions based on operational needs. They didn't hold official ranks in Ukrainian's military hierarchy and are not listed in public rosters. About key tasks, the squadron is regularly involved in intercepting Russian caliber and Ha-101 cruise missiles, as well as Geran-5 drones. F-16s are used for patrols, including night ones, maximizing radar coverage and rapid response capabilities. The main value of Western pilots lies in their experience with advanced equipment, particularly sniper targeting and reconnaissance pods, described as the eyes of the aircraft. These systems allow pilots to track targets over long distances, monitor fast-moving missiles and drones, even at night or through heavy clouds. While Ukrainian pilots are beginning to master the technology, American veterans continue to provide critical expertise. About foreigners in the Air Force. As early as 2023, the Ukrainian Air Force allowed for the possibility that foreigners could serve as pilots or as specialists in the engineering and aviation corps, provided they had the appropriate military occupational qualifications. Officially, there has been no confirmation so far that foreign pilots are actively helping to defend Ukraine. On the night of February 17th, drones attacked the Ilsky oil refinery in the Krasnodar region of Russia. Occupied Sevastopol also reported one of the longest attacks in recent times, according to Astra and statements of local authorities. About drones in Russia, those a series of powerful explosions thundered in the Krasnodar region of Russia. Kamikaze drones attacked an oil refinery in Ilsky. It is reported that as a result of strikes, a large-scale fire broke out on the territory of the enterprise. Witnesses published videos with fire and smoke. According to the operational headquarters of the Krasnodar region, as a result of an unmanned aerial vehicle attack on the Ilsky oil refinery, a reservoir with petroleum products caught fire. The area of the fire was about 700 square meters. 72 people and 21 units of equipment were involved in the elimination of consequences, including specialists of the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia and a fire train. According to preliminary information, no injuries. It concerns the Ilsky oil refinery, an enterprise in the Krasnodar region that is among the leading oil refining companies of the Southern Federal District of Russia. The plant carries out reception, storage and processing of hydrocarbon raw materials, as well as shipment of products by road and rail transport. According to open sources, the enterprise is involved in supplying the Russian military-industrial complex. About the attack on Crimea, also on the night of February 17th, a massive attack was reported in occupied Sevastopol. Local authorities reported one of the longest attacks in recent times. According to the local governor, during the night, air defense forces and Black Sea Fleet of Russia allegedly shot down more than 24 unmanned aerial vehicles. Strike unmanned aerial vehicles attacked the Metafrex chemical enterprise in the Perm region of Russia at night, causing fire. The plant produces components of explosives, Astra reports. On social networks, residents wrote about an explosion and a fire at the plant in the city of Gubaha. It is noted that from 4 to 6 drone hits were recorded on the Enterprise. Workers were evacuated to shelter and fire broke out on the territory, which is currently being extinguished. One eyewitness claims that about 20 explosions were heard. They were audible even in school, where children were at that moment in shelter, and some students were taken away by their parents. Disruptions in the operation of the mobile internet are also observed in the region. Governor of the Perm region, Dmitry Mahonin, confirmed the fact of the detection of hostile unmanned aerial vehicles on the territory of the region. He noted that as a result of the attack, there are no injuries, all emergency services have been informed, and there is no threat to the population. What is known about the Metafrex plant? Metafrex Enterprise in Hubaha is a key asset of the chemical holding Metafrex Group. Plant produces various chemical products, including methanol, formalin, derivatives of organic compounds, synthetic resins, and other substances. Fighters of the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroyed a storage site for an Iskander missile system as well as a drone piloting center of the Rubicon unit in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine.
Units of the Special Operations Forces successfully carried out fire strikes using FP2 drones against enemy rear and operational infrastructure facilities in the temporarily occupied territory of Ukraine.
In particular, in the village of Peshana in temporarily occupied Crimea, SSO struck a storage site for an Iskander missile system. Powerful explosions were recorded at the site. In addition, Ukrainian forces destroyed a remote drone piloting center of the Rubicon unit in the village of Vysoke in the temporarily occupied part of the Zaporizhia region. Several drones successfully hit the target.
Overall, between February 9th and 14th, SSO units struck more than 10 enemy military facilities in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. These included concentrations of personnel, ammunition depots, parking areas for military vehicles, and other targets.
About strikes on key Russian military targets, Ukrainian forces regularly destroy valuable enemy military targets in Russia and in the temporarily occupied territories using strike drones. Earlier, operators of the Unmanned Systems Forces struck a North Korean-made Koksan self-propelled artillery system in the Luhansk region. In addition, operators of the SBS Asgard Battalion of the 412th Nemesis Brigade destroyed 2 Tor M2 surface-to-air missile systems of the occupiers in a single night. It was also reported that Ukrainian Special Operations Forces carried out a precise strike on a warehouse storing Shahed-type drones in temporarily occupied Donetsk. For Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, it is important to eliminate Ukrainian statehood. He does not intend to end the war. One of the leaders of the Russian opposition, Garry Kasparov, said in an interview with RBC Ukraine.
The reason for the war has not yet been clearly defined, or rather everyone understands. But the key phrase defining the cause of the war as Putin's desire to eliminate Ukrainian statehood and restore Russian Soviet imperial influence in Eastern Europe, and in general revising the results of the Cold War, which is the ideological basis of Putin's war. Everything else is just talk for the poor.
According to him, a certain compromise in ending the war would mean that Putin will simply regroup and move further, because the war for the Russian president does not end even in Ukraine. Putin's war is global, a war against the West, against liberal democracies, and here, Putin represents the liberal part of the world, one of the leaders of the Russian opposition emphasized. He also stressed that an attempt to find an agreement to end the war in Ukraine without removing the root cause of the war is doomed to failure.
If the Ukrainian authorities decide that it is necessary to compromise by making territorial concessions, in my opinion, this may not be the best decision. It may be a bad one, but I, of course, can never express my opinion or criticize. This is the decision of the Ukrainian people. I support it, whatever the Ukrainian authorities and the Ukrainian people decide on this issue. But it's absolutely clear that the war cannot end as long as Putin is in power.
Everything else is just noise. Putin is a war. Putin's Russia is a military camp. This does not mean that without Putin, Russia will end the war, but the war cannot end as long as Putin is in power, Kasparov added. According to him, Putin will continue the war because it has become the main mechanism for maintaining his power. In the event of a Russian invasion of the Baltic states, the North Atlantic Alliance would not dare to mount a full-scale response. One of the leaders of the Russian opposition, Garry Kasparov, said this in an interview with RBC Ukraine. NATO membership a fiction. According to Kasparov, formal NATO membership does not guarantee real protection. He suggested imagining a scenario in which a 200,000-strong Russian grouping approaches Latvia's border. They say Latvia is a member of NATO. That's just a piece of paper. It's absolutely nothing, the opposition figure stressed. Kasparov recalled his speech at the International Security Forum in Halifax, where he asked Europeans a direct question whether they have orders to open fire if Russian troops cross the border. There is no answer, because everyone knows the answer. No one will shoot, he said. According to him, NATO membership has turned out to be a fiction.
Because you can sign any document, nice, shiny documents, but there must be people who are ready to follow the instructions in that document.
What NATO's Article 5 depends on? The effectiveness of NATO's Article 5 depends on the political will of the US leadership, Kasparov believes. He said that NATO's Article 5 is effective only when strong political leaders are in the White House, such as the 40th US President Ronald Reagan or the 39th President Jimmy Carter. But it doesn't work when Trump is there. That's all, the interviewer said. He added that Finland is less vulnerable due to its well-prepared army. By contrast, the Baltic states, in his assessment, remain really defenseless. About possible scenarios of a Russian invasion of Europe, Kasparov also outlined a possible scenario that he considers the most likely, not a large-scale invasion, but a limited operation. It could involve small units crossing the border, for example, several hundred special forces troops seizing a small part of territory, probably in the area of Daugavpils in Latvia or Narva in Estonia. And then they check, is there a fifth article or not? Unfortunately, we know the answer, he concluded. About Russia's threat to Europe, after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, fears in Europe of a possible expansion of Russian aggression have greatly increased. According to Reuters, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania are preparing detailed emergency response scenarios, including in the event of a possible Russian invasion or a sharp escalation on their borders. Analysts from ISW believe that the Kremlin has already begun the first phase of preparations for a potential conflict with NATO. In their assessment, Russia may resort to provocations, including false flag operations. Germany recently held exercises simulating a Russian invasion of Lithuania. Their results were disappointing. Moscow would be capable of achieving its objectives in a matter of days. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.